like I feel like there's a little bit of a mix up here because you know what? She's wearing green and you're wearing blue. That is not sunshine and broccoli colors. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I was wearing green all day. This is my time to be blue.
You guys, it's been a while since we conversed. We've never done the video format. We have done the audio. So how do I look? Am I like I'm definitely not TV ready because look at this bedhead here. But
Oh,
like,
you look great. Your
yeah, man.
beard too. You got it all going on.
Yeah, I feel
Is
like
that
it's very easy going.
and you're a Detroit Red Wings fan, I see as well.
Yeah, no, this is all no. Yeah, it's totally mine. Yeah. I feel bad if it was like a few years ago when they weren't doing so well, and I'd be like,
Yeah,
no, this is just a setup room. But they're on the up and ups, so I
they
feel
are.
like I can be proud to say that yes, this is my room. This is a Detroit Red Wings room. I want to ask you guys, like, how have you been since the last time we talked? Because the last time we talked, it was like the pandemic. People were kind of focusing on like how do we avoid it. I believe, Lisa, you were headed out of Toronto in the sense like you were going to a cabin. Brock had his own plans, but like, tell me, how have you been since then?
We have been great. We've been really, really good. Since we spoke last, had another baby. So I have two boys now. Brock got married. He's a newlywed-ish. They just celebrated their first year of marriage. And in Sunshine and Broccoli land, it's been really phenomenal. We have the opportunity to collaborate with amazing artists over the pandemic, and really collaborate with companies and businesses that maybe we wouldn't be able to reach. And because everything went online, we were able to like do things for Indigo and Mastermind and Blue Mountain and all these places that were really looking for entertainment for the children. So we've been really good.
I was not invited to the wedding. I did not know about the kid. Thanks a lot, you guys. Thought we were close. Thought we were friends. I want to ask you though, talking about all those topics, getting into a little bit like the virtual world. Some people like it. Some people are not for it. I'm a little bit of both because I will give you this example as I do with many cases in this podcast. When artists went virtual, there were a lot of them that were like, "Hey, I don't want to be poking a bear. People are already kind of paranoid with this pandemic, and now I'm going to promote an album. Like that just seems like all about me." And then there's other people like, "Well, it's my career. I need to make money somehow too." But I enjoyed it to be like the virtual world. Like if I seen Luke Combs or like Lights going live, and it was not even like something scheduled, they could just preemptively do it. And then I think I've heard Lights sing like a Smash Mouth song, which I don't think I'd hear her sing on tour. And I was like, this is kind of cool because then she gets a real live aspect of people commenting, like whether they like it or not. Because in a fan aspect, if you're in a big stadium and someone's yelling from 5 rows back, just play your new stuff. You can't hear that. And I guess that's sometimes good, but you actually get instant feedback. So how do you kind of react to the virtual world? Because I know it's children's entertainment, family entertainment. Did you like respond positively to that? Or was it kind of like, man, just wish we could go out and like hug some kids?
Well, I think it was a bit of both. Like we obviously love being live and interactive with the kids, but this provided us a platform for us to get right inside their living room with them and their family, and to have them or their parents respond interactively, sending us comments throughout our show, song recommendations.
Yeah.
And I think we adapted very, very well to it. And it also allowed us to collaborate with other artists very easily. And I think that's what we really, we kind of ascended through the pandemic.
And what do you think was like the most kind of difficult part of the pandemic? Because, you did say reaching out to acts, like you can do that now on social media, which is a cool platform. And sometimes they'll see something, whether it be through an ad that you share or just stumbling across a word search and they see it. But like, what were some of the, I guess, building blocks that you're kind of like, oh man, we gotta find a way around this?
I think that the pandemic, like any other performer, or anyone in the entertainment business, it really made a halt financially, right? Because I remember for us, it was March break and we were fully booked. Like every single day was several shows a day, and one by one they were dropping. One by one they were dropping. And so, although we shifted very fast to the online world, I mean, I think almost immediately. And every single day at 11 a.m., we did a live show until it got really saturated.
Yeah.
And, and what was really hard is like, and to this day, people come up to us and say, thank you for what you did for us for the pandemic, because every single day my kid tuned in and you were there. And then when it got saturated and we were kind of also, it's not the same, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not the same, even though, and then, you see, and I do the same. Like I really tried to support people who are doing lives because it's really hard to show up online by yourself. So I really tried
Right.
to just like click into somebody's live, but then you don't stay the whole time because life is life and busy. And so I think that the roadblocks for us were more, I mean, financially, we obviously weren't making what we did. But there was also, like Brock said, a lot of really cool opportunities that came from that.
I always find the biggest jump for me, because like when I do pre-recorded interviews or chats compared to like live, like I don't think I worry about so much the following or how many viewers it has. It's just me being prepared, because I feel like preemptively you can always like edit things. Like, if you
Mhm.
do shows, you can kind of edit things, you can kind of be the master of your own control. Live is its own beast, its own animal. That's why like
Mhm.
sometimes when you look at SNL, I feel like there's people that will go online on Saturday Night Live and be like, "This is the worst cast ever. This is like this is horrible," and that's just me. No, I'm not kidding. But like, but then there's like, you have to give them credit because yeah, they rehearsed, but it's live, and they're now in front of this like a whole audience. And if a line doesn't go the way that they planned it, if something like just like I don't know, like something on the set falls that's not supposed to fall, because I've seen bloopers on that stuff, it's like, how do you react? But a virtual world, because I think SNL for a while did it without an audience, and it was kind of really weird to see that. It's like, I don't know where to laugh. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and then that throws everyone off. So I can imagine virtually when you're saying, "Hey, I see you out there, Zach. Clap your hands," and it's like, but you can't really see Zach, so you're just kind of like, I hope he's clapping his hands. But in like a concert setting, you can see the big bright faces, the smiles, and that kind of keeps you going. Were there times, I guess, during this time frame like that you're kind of like, I know people are relying on you, like you said, people are like, I'm there with you. But were there times that you mentally were kind of like, oh man, like it's just not the same. Like, can we find something else?
I mean, that's a very good question. Again, like as Sunshine said, there was a point when it got saturated. There was so much online, and we were seeing so many people do their music shows and the same thing, and it is kind of hard to not get a response from
Yeah.
your songs, especially when our songs are very interactive, very engaging, and it's just like we want to hear the audience sing and clap along and come dance with us. And when you don't get that, it kind of it just diminishes that level of live entertainment a little bit.
Yeah, because I know there was like even to this day, and that's cool, like because the amount of acts you follow, but like on any given second, someone goes live on Instagram, and it's like, I feel like during the pandemic, it's like, yeah, I'm staying tuned, I want to see it, but now it's like every 5 minutes, if I follow someone, it's like I'm going live with this person or I'm going live here, and I'm just like, I wanna watch it, but at the same point, it's like I want to do my own stuff too, so it's kind of like that divide. And I remember really early in the pandemic, and I guess you guys can relate to this in the same sense. It's like uh, Jeremy Fisher was doing things, Splash and Boots was doing things. There's a whole like I think Sharon and
Sure.
Bram, yeah. And then I'm just trying to remember the sister's name or her daughter's name, but they were doing things, and I'm just like, okay, so if you're a parent and you're following all these different platforms, you're kind of like needing 4 or 5 iPads in a room, just being like, all right, here's iPad 1, you got Sunshine Broccoli, here's iPad 2, here's iPad 3, and it's just like, I get it. Then you're just kind of like, where do we go from here as the entertainer? But I guess like post pandemic, if you can say that, I know that we still got to be kind of cautious, careful, all that, especially in the winter months because that's when it's flu season. But like, how do you guys now adapt with the social media side of things post pandemic? Like, do you still kind of post things live, or is it more or less like, hey, here's an update, check us out at this event?
Yeah, for us, thank God, our world is back. We just actually did 2 sold out CD release shows, and it was amazing to see people in the theater live. You almost forget about the
Yeah.
pandemic, and even forget about COVID. Like, it was just normal, you know? They showed up to our shows the way they normally would. And I think for us, like, thank God, I'll never forget the first show we did back from the pandemic was the Royal Botanical Gardens. And it was an outdoor show. And this was like well over a year ago. I think close to 2 years ago in the summer. And it was like, you know, everybody was outside and everybody was distance, but like we were on stage and we were rocking and the kids were rocking and the parents were rocking and everybody's faces was lit up, and it's something we can't take for granted anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to ask you though, in talking about this, because I know this is like the 6th album you have out recently. Like I think it was like October 28th
Yep.
that you put that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that because like I know there was one that you had a Juno nomination for, and I think that's kind of cool because like listen, I've never been nominated for a Juno. Like I feel like one day I should, and then they'll just be like, well, if you're gonna ask for one, like obviously we're not gonna give you one now. You have to earn it. And I'm like, oh man, okay, I'll learn how to earn it. But like number one, let's talk about like the new album. Like tell me something that a little bit different from the 5th album, from other albums. Because I know artists like to create something new in each album. Was there something in this one that you're like, okay, we didn't touch it on the 5th one, but let's do it on the 6th? Or was there something like of a sound or a type of feel that you were going for?
Well, it happened very organically, and it was just during the pandemic. We also wanted to comfort families and kids, knowing we have a song, I'm gonna be okay, just showing them that you are gonna be okay and you're gonna get through this, and there's gonna be another side to it. And we were so fortunate to collaborate with many artists on our new album, such as the recent Juno Award winner, Cairo McLean, the youngest Juno Award winner of all time.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, we wrote an amazing song called Born to Be Brave. And I really do think that's what sums up what this album is about. And it's okay to make mistakes, and you will pursue, you'll get through it, and just keep on keeping on, keep going through it.
So like how did that collaboration come to be? Because I know I'm a big fan of say Walk Off the Earth. And like, some of the times that I'll look at their music and then you see like they'll post some clips and then the next minute someone reaches out to them and then that becomes a whole ordeal. And then sometimes it's just literally like just them messing around. And then next minute it's like you see an artist just DM them. Like I think there was like a song that I really liked by them, and then Tyler Shaw got in on it because Tyler Shaw is like really good at like TikTok and just implementing things. I'm like, that's great because it still gives him some levity and a career in that as well. But were you like reaching out to acts to be involved, or did they just kind of come to you? Because it's reggae. Now, I will speak for myself. I'm not very reggae-ish. I don't listen to a lot of it. But like, kids will tune into anything if you make it sound great. And if there's a kid out there listening to this and be like, hey, I'm offended. I'm like, listen, I know the truth. You vary. It's all over the place. But like, tell me how that came to be.
Well, we actually, it was through a doctor's office. I was taking my father's appointment. I know it's very strange story. And the receptionist there overheard my father and I talking about how we were nominated for a Juno. And she says, do you mind if I interrupt you and ask you? Because my son is just recently nominated for a Juno Award. His name's Cairo McLean. And then all of a sudden, I started talking with his mom, who's the receptionist. And my dad was in his appointment. And I was there for about 45 minutes talking with her, just trying to guide her through all the motions because she didn't know what to do. And we created such an amazing relationship. We invited Cairo over to Sunshine's place, and we wrote a song with him and Kurt Diamond, who's also a multi-Juno Award winner. And it just happened so naturally. And that's how it came to be. We met through the mom, through a doctor's office, and through synergy, it was just meant to be.
I'm glad Dad got his appointment, because I'd be a little bit concerned if you bring him to the appointment and it's like, I know, Dad, you have an appointment, but like I'm talking over here, and he's
Yeah.
just like, but son, like I have to get this thing done. It's like, no. It's like, if you go in there, this whole thing gets ruined. But I'm glad it's an appointment. It's not like one of those things where it's like, I know she works in there. I know that's the kid's mom. Let's do this. Like, yeah, because there are some cases I'm sure people be like, I know Britney Spears works in there, so let's pretend that we just randomly bumped into Britney Spears. It's like, I don't think that can work that way. But like, tell me a little bit about like how, I know it's pretty early, but how has the reception been for the album, for the songs that you play? And like, do you find that they kind of embrace the reggae side of things? Do they really care? Or are kids just kind of like, you know what? I know who Sonshine and Broccoli are, whatever they're going to put out, I'm going to listen to it.
I have to say, I think this album is getting the most incredible response. And it's really interesting because, as I said, I was pregnant when we wrote the majority of these songs, and going into the studio was not as consistent as it usually. We take like a week and we go in and it's done.
Yeah.
And our producer was pretty unbelievable and very understanding to the fact that we both, I think we started recording when I was pregnant, and then took some time off, and then Brock would go in and do some stuff and bring in some other musicians. So I actually didn't hear the finished product until he mastered it.
Okay.
I heard things here and there. I'm so obsessed with this album. Like, that's all my kids listen to. I do drop my son off at school, and parents are also blasting it. They're like, look, we're listening to, and it's, honestly, I have to say, truly, I'm in awe that this is our album. It is, and we've had really amazing feedback from people in the industry who have written and said, like, this is, there's nothing like this out there right now for kids. And it's a real honor to be able to take our musical talents, which we have always used in our albums. Brock and I both went to school for musical theater. That's how we know each other.
Yeah.
So it's cool to take that and then create this album, and then with messages that are so powerful and so strong, and the hooks are so catchy. And I think there's one song in the album that I'm like, but other than that, like every other song, I am digging.
I want to ask you, and feel free to pass on this, because I know sometimes these questions just come out the top of my head because it's more of a conversation, not anything preempt. But, like you talk about like these songs, and like parents come up to you and say they love it, kids love it, and that's what you want. Like, that's good feedback. And like you're saying the whole time that you're there for children, like you're trying to help them through it, the idea of being brave. But I want to ask you kind of like an in-depth here is like, how many times during this whole kind of pandemic, post-pandemic, did ye have to put on a brave face? I know people are going to say ye. I'm a Newfoundlander. I'm allowed to say ye. But it's like, because listen, I come from a podcast kind of thing, and like I can post episodes with Saget, with Stamos, with anybody that we've had on, and I go into the comment section, and it's mostly like, love John Stamos, love Bob Saget. And there's nothing really like there that's saying like, hey, I'm the host. I did an okay job. It's like they're there for the guests, and I get that. But that's something that I have to like wear as like, hey, that's good. They came to see him, and they're not complaining about me, so I'll take the win. But like, are there times that ye kind of had to amp up your own selves? Because yes, the kids are coming up to you, parents are coming up to you saying yes, but when you don't get that feedback, but it's good, are there times that both of you had to kind of be like, we're getting there, we know this is good, but we're just not getting that feedback yet?
Well, I just know personally with maybe the writing process of some of the songs and then hearing it back, sometimes you're just like, I don't know if that's going to work, and your insecurities sort of eat you alive a little. But you have to put on a good face, and you have to trust. That's the thing. You really have to trust yourself and fall forward. That's the only way to do it. And that's where my personal insecurities, or you say ye, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
I would have to kind of pull up my big pants and just be like, okay, this is going to work. I know it might not be now, or maybe Sunshine doesn't like this part, but we're going to fix it and it's going to work.
And what was your take on that, Sunshine? Like, were there moments that you had to kind of, because I know you're saying that you were pregnant, maybe not as much. Like, now these are my words. Feel free to like cut me off and say no, but like you're not as say as involved as you'd want to be because now you're pregnant. You're trying to make sure that the baby's okay. You're still trying to get this album out, and like there's a whole lot to go into that. I'm not a mother. I'm not going to pretend to be one, but it's just a like, you're trying to balance two things. And then you're kind of trying to make sure that you put on this face for everyone to be like, okay, don't show that you're kind of cracking or a little like not all there at some points. So were there moments that you even had to amp up yourself of like, oh my God, let's just get through it and it will be rewarding at the end?
For sure, for sure. Not in any dramatic way, though. I think
Oh, that's what we want. We want the dramatics. No.
drama. No, I think. I mean, I really have to hats off to our producer who is exceptional, and Andrew Matcham, and like we couldn't love him more because he really understood that I couldn't be as available, and I trust him like I have never trusted with. I mean, this is our sixth album, and he did two of the albums. This one he actually mixed, mastered, produced. Like this one, we gave him full reign. But I trust him so much, and I love his work so much, and he understands us. So he knew if I went in for 2 hours, which was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like I had to find the time to leave for 2 hours. He made sure that like I was out. And he and Brock also stepped up their game so hard where it was like, okay, she isn't as available, but like we've got this. And they held down the fort, and like I that's where I feel like obviously I was very involved with the process, but definitely not as I normally am. And I almost enjoyed it because there's a part in our careers, and we have our publicist and we have management and whatever, and sometimes it's like I just want to show up as Sunshine. I don't want to
Yeah.
show up as like Sunshine, I just want to show up and then I want to go home.
Yeah, yeah.
So they allowed me that freedom, which I'm very grateful for.
I want to ask because I mean, again, implementing a little bit of the in-depth side of things, like a little bit of relatability, I guess, because this is probably like maybe 170 odd episodes of doing this.
Wow.
But like, comparing it to if you go back and like listen to the first episode compared to now, yes, you're still going to have learning curves. Yes, there's going to be times where you're trying to like, again, with the social media world, try to figure out how do I get to the most people? Like, how do I do this? But there also has to come a point where you're kind of like, who am I doing it for? Like, am I enjoying it? Like, what's the whole idea? But I found in the first few episodes of this, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like this is who I want to get on, and this is how I want to like get through my internship at a school, and then be like, I'm done. I'll move on. I'll do CTV, CBC, whatever. And then when I realized like, oh, okay, like they're not knocking at my door, and even when I knock at their door, they're not exactly answering. I'm like, how do I continue? So then it just became an option of let's continue and see where it goes. And now I just kind of look at it and be like, no, I like doing this way more than, knocking at someone's door and saying like, okay, hire me. It's like, I like doing this, but like, it came a time frame where I was like, that's where it transitions. So I guess my question in saying that is, do you find from the first time you performed your first album to now, there are like little tricks that you've learned, little things that come along the way that you're like, hey, remember when we did this in like the first album compared to now? Like, looking back at it, like that was kind of silly, but at least we learned from it.
Well, obviously you're totally right. We always learn from stuff. We learn. You either win or you learn. You don't lose. So in our earlier stuff, there were some great songs that we loved, but we knew that we could step it up. We've grown with the kids that we sing to, and our music has grown and not necessarily become more sophisticated, but it has developed into better songwriting. And we've learned how to take those tools with us along the way, not necessarily just identifying them as a subject, but just knowing that that's not really going to work. with this audience. We have to be more interactive, and we have to consider performing these songs live. And that was a big thing that Lisa said, that we have to consider performing these songs live. We can't just put the song on an album for kids just to listen to at home. It's important to have those parts of the song integrated into it.
So when you mentioned that, like, tell me a little bit more detail of, like, because I'm kind of curious, like, what kind of things were you worried about, like, compared to like a studio, compared to live? Because I know some acts would be like, oh, well, we got to leave out this word, or I can't actually perform this because, like, how do I kind of get that in there? Or there could be like certain instruments that they implement that they have in a studio, but it's probably harder to go on tour with. Like, I can imagine, not that I have, but it's easier to probably find a trombone in a studio and be like, hey, trombone player, or like, tuba player, like, get in here. But then on a tour, you're like, man, you got us in 50 states. We're going across 12 provinces or 10, whatever. And I got to carry this tuba around. I'm like, can you just put it on a voice demo or something so I can just not?
Well, we have, fortunately, we oh, sorry. Lisa.
No, go ahead.
We use backing tracks. So
Okay.
they really fill in that part of the volume part of it. Sorry. Yeah. You go, Lisa.
No, I think that it was, like Brock said, it was really important. When we look back to our old songs, they are amazing. And I'm actually shocked. Our first album is called the Sonshine and Broccoli Jam. And we started 21 years ago. So I think we put out that album about maybe 18 years ago.
Okay.
And when I run into parents whose kids listen to that, we had this song called I Want to Be, and then it was like, I want to be a sour key. So I'll run into parents now, and they're like, oh, I want to be a sour key. And so I think that it actually was really interesting. One of my good friends' kids, they have the album, our first album, in their car. I couldn't even tell you what songs are on it. I don't know the lyrics. I have no idea. And one of the girls sent me a video of her singing the song that I wrote called Starlight. And I was like, that is a good song. Did I write that? Like, so that's, for us, it's important that because we gig a lot, thank God. And so we have our set list and we know our stuff ins and outs and what works and what doesn't work. But because we perform so much, it was important that the songs that we're choosing to write, not all of them, but majority of them, are really good interactive performing songs.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a good take on it, because I can imagine, like, if you're going back in time and listening to some of like the early stuff, you're like, okay, this is good. I like this. Maybe I don't like this one so much, but we've grown from that. Like, I'll go back from time to time. Not that I feel like there's a lot of people now, I could be wrong on this, but maybe I'll just speak for myself in this, but I don't like hearing my own voice. I don't like going back and listening to myself and just being like, that's me. Oh my God, it sounds horrible. And then it's just like, but I like it. And I'm just like, no, stop. You're just being nice. I'm just like, that sounds whiny and drainy on the other end there. But I will go back and listen to some of my other conversations just to see, like, for my own personal growth of how things go. Like, did I feel more confident? Did I come across more calm? But there are definitely times that I'll go back and, like, I'll be in a room by myself and someone will just be like, what are you doing? Like, who are you criticizing? I'm just like, I'm listening to myself from 3 years ago. And I'm just like, man, stop saying and and then it's just like, dude, it's okay to say that. I'm just like, yeah, but I want to be so much better. But like, I feel like being self-critical of yourself is okay. Just don't beat yourself down. Like, I guess in a nice way, like, pound yourself a little bit, but don't give yourself a knockout punch.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And the fortunate thing with both Sonshine and myself going to musical theater school, we learned a lot from that. We learned a lot from there. Certain things we would, when we would sing, we would do things with our tongue, and it would just be so, but we would be called on it. So we would know not to do it and know how to perform and perfect our performance part. And so thankfully through that program, I think we've learned a lot of those tools from there.
Also working with our producer, who really is a musical genius. My voice is a little bit more powerful and I like to belt it out. And he really had me tone it down. And even though I really wanted to belt most of the time,
Yeah.
I trusted that he really knew the vibe of the song and the album. And so I just kind of did what he asked me to do. And because I knew he had a bigger vision.
Mhm.
No, that's like the idea I think of it all too, which I think is really key. And sometimes with writing a song, producing a song, like putting it all together, like people implement or sometimes think like, oh, it gotta be so simple, it gotta be so easy. Like I'm just gonna like, oh, that's like this is my buddy from like 3 years ago and he's a musician. Let's team up and see. And like sometimes it don't always work out. Like there's always going to be someone who overpowers another or someone who's like the more creative one. And sometimes they find a way to gel, sometimes they don't. And then that's when you get like a band like Oasis where you're like, man, together you guys are so good, but you just can never see eye to eye. And I don't understand why that is. And then you have other bands, and this is like my references, but like Backstreet Boys, where I'm just like, you have a whole lot of dynamics in that, but somehow at the end of the day, they all make it work. But like if you watch a documentary on it, there's times where it's like they're out there calling Nick every name in the book, they're calling Brian every name in the book, but like at the end of the day, it's like they're still supportive of each other because the end goal is the same. Where I feel like in Oasis case, it's like the end goal is like, oh man, like I got my thing, you got your thing, but together sometimes we're good, sometimes we don't know. So I want to ask, like in getting to that dynamic, like how many times do you guys probably butt heads on any given day? And then how does it get solved? Is there someone like, listen, I'm sorry? Or is it more or less like, you know what? I'm the sour key today. I'm a little bit sour.
I'll answer this one.
Yeah, you answer.
Hands up.
Yeah.
Listen, Brock's like my brother.
Yeah.
Like we've been best friends for 24 years,
That's
you know? And so, yeah, it's crazy. So of course we butt heads. I want to kill him like 90% of the time. So of course, like we are, I listen, we have a very successful following, a very successful business. And I think that life changes and life grows and I don't have the same time that I used to. And Brock, I don't know. What do you think, B?
Well, what I think is Lisa's actually really good at this. She's good at confronting things that are issues or problems. She's like, listen, we need to talk about this. Let's talk. And you know what? You come through the gate. It might be hard and it's not comfortable talking about it, but we always come out of it with something and realize we really are here together and we nurture each other's relationship and we love each other. And through this, we've created something so amazing. But she's just so good at when there's a block or when there's some dissonance between us. She's really good at nipping it in the bud, and so we can move forward with what we need to do.
That's good. You always want one in the group that can like kind of, you know, the easy guess way to say it is like they tackle it. They're still nice about it, but if there's times where it's like they have to be a little bit like direct, they can. I know for my personality, I'm more of like, I guess, a Chandler Bing, where it's like I can interest you with a sarcastic remark. If I feel like you're really down and out, then yes, that's when I'll come and be like, sure, how can I help you? Like, let's get through it. Let's put on serious, Brian. But for the most part, it's like, I'll be the funny guy and like try to cheer you up that way. But if I know that you're really down and out or you're really concerned, then sure, I'll do my best. But I'm still like, if I'm being honest, there are times that someone's like going through a real deep issue and I'm like, I don't know how exactly to relate. I'm walking on eggshells here, but I'm going to try my best. But I feel like that's all you can really do is try your best to help someone out. And if, you know, that's it. But I do like the dynamic that at least you guys are approachable and saying like, hey, I know my limitations. I know when I'm stepping out of bounds. I know when I'm a sour key. I know when I'm a sour patch. I know when I'm a gummy bear. Like I know all that stuff. Kids are probably out there if they're listening to this and going like, I'm completely lost. Was I ever a gummy bear? Like, was I ever a gummy bear? It's like, trust me, at one point you were. I want to ask, like, I guess in a kind of a fun aspect of things, like, what kind of things do you enjoy about performing now? Because again, going back to the whole virtual side compared to the reality of actually doing it, like, yes, you like the audience. Yes, you like being able to see parents and them coming up and telling you, like, hey, man, like, you just saved me 3 hours of, like, pulling my hair out. But, like, what other things you enjoy about just the live atmospheres?
Well, it was a good question because we just had our CD release show. We did 2 back-to-back shows. And I can only speak for myself is that, performing is my roots. It's my happy place. It's where I feel like so self-expressed. If I ever had a doubt in my mind that I was meant to be doing something, like this is it 100%. And the feedback that we got or I got from people in the audience were like, you're such a good performer. And I like I know that because I feel it.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm tooting my own horn. I'm really not.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
more like, no. It's not an ego thing. It's more that I see the reaction from kids and I see the reaction and I know how to get them. It's like, I mean, I've been to kids concerts or, kids classes and I'm sitting there like, oh God, like this
Yeah.
is what parents are saying where it's like, your music's so enjoyable and it's so this, but I've been the mom who's sitting there being like, oh God, like
Yeah.
if I had to listen, my kid also loves like Peppa Pig and Blippi, and we embrace these songs in our house. We listen to them often.
Yes. Yes, Peppa Pig.
Peppa. But I get it. I mean, we're creating really good music, and it's really what's cool about this album is that the parents and the kids can really enjoy it together.
All right. No, I feel like, you know what, in my own relative sense, because again, like I don't have kids. I can't sit down. Like, I feel like if I sat down and listened to Sonshine and Broccoli, like without, people asking me to, they'd be like, what's on the go here, bud? But like for me, I kind of related to like a Sharon Lois and Bram when I was growing up. It used to be always on like NTV at like 6 or 7 in the morning down here in Newfoundland. My brothers one year for Christmas when I was like 18 or 19 thought it was a great gift to give me the CD. And they're like, we were so annoyed by you because you were very adamant to have this on all the time. And it drove us nuts. And I'm like, as a kid, you're like, man, it's just a CD. It's not a big deal. But now with a niece and nephew, when they wanted to watch Pepper Pig all the time and, whatever, like the Wiggles, I was kind of like, all right, like, love you, but can we turn on something else? Like, come on. Like, it's okay. But like 24/7, not for me. But I'm not the target audience, I don't think, for the Wiggles. I'd be concerned if I was. If Emma Watkins, well, she's no longer a Wiggle, but if she came on and was like, for all the 20-year-olds out there come to my concert, I'd be like, Emma, you're not going to sell tickets. Go towards the kids, the bow, everything. That will work. Me, no. But I think it's interesting. Like, it all depends, I guess, on the target audience that you want to go for. Having your own confidence. I find when someone comes across on my platform and like, yeah, you do this really well, there's still a part of me that's like, no, I don't. It's just a conversation. Are you telling me you can never converse with people? Like, yeah, but you make it sound so easy. I'm just like, no, I don't. Like, there's a part of you that still feels like inside, like, I know how to converse. It's just that they probably are a little bit shy of, the act they have on or the idea of communicating with someone. Like, and I guess in a way, I'm going to ask this and feel free to pass on if you do, but I'll relate it to my story first, and then you can kind of implement your own. But like, I know, I guess it's a Newfoundland kind of thing too, where conversing with someone, I treat you no differently than my neighbor next door. And there are people that get upset about that, where it's like, but your neighbor next door isn't famous. I'm like, they could be. We just don't know that. They could have a talent. But then there are people that will be out there, be like, can you believe the arrogance of this guy? Like, he's interviewing people that are well known, and he's doesn't give a blue moon in the world there. He's just having a conversation with them. I'm like, it's just a person at the end of the day. It's like they have feelings, emotions too. But like, have you ever come across that where someone's like, oh man, that's Sonshine and Broccoli. Who do they think they are?
I personally, I haven't. The reception that we always get is pretty positive from people, and I personally, I don't know. Maybe they're thinking that,
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
they're thinking, oh, they're going on Tobin. Like, who
yeah,
do they think they are? And
yeah.
this and or they're putting out another album and
I'll
this
cut.
and
I'll,
that.
I'll say right before you go. I don't mean to cut you off, but if they're coming at you and saying, "Oh, they're going on Tobin," that's an ego boost for me.
Yeah. I just well, you know, with that kind of stuff, you have to wash it off your shoulder a little because it can get so ingrained into your head, and you can ruminate about it, and then it'll just disable your confidence. And I try to steer clear from that stuff. I don't know if people think that way about us, but we try to be as positive and as supportive to other artists as we can. So I think that's what we can do.
Well, that's good because I know for the most part with social media is kind of like a double-edged sword. Now, I don't know if it's different with, say, the family and child entertainment part, because most times it's probably the adults that are leaving the comments. And maybe like a 12-year-old that somehow hacked their mom's account was just like, I found him. I'm gonna leave him a nice comment. But like, there are people out there like other artists that go through their Facebook daily or social media, and it's mostly like, I can't believe you did this song. Like, what are you wearing? Blah blah blah. And then you're just like, okay, that's like one little aspect of the world. The people that go out and see your concerts, focus on them, because the people on social media probably just scrolled across your thing. There's ads and everything now. Like if I go on my Instagram today and I don't know, say a Justin Bieber thing pops up, listen, I like Bieber, but there could be someone else that doesn't. They didn't go and click on Bieber's ad. It just popped up. And then instantly they're like, oh, it's like, not my thing. I can't believe this guy's. And then I'm just like, and he did nothing wrong. He just, someone else implemented that, but now he gets all the hate. But I'm just like, don't worry. Social
I
media.
think social media is a funny place. I think that, thank God we've really grown our Sunshine and Broccoli page, and it's very targeted to moms.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think when I became a mom, I kind of stepped into the space of like, I'm a mom and I'm doing this right here with you. So I think it becomes very relatable. That I'll often get like, how do you do it? Like what you do? How are you doing it? Well, I don't do it all.
Yeah.
Don't. So, and some things are harder than others. And, my kids are sick and they're sick. And I don't put the same amount of pressure on myself that I used to, because we're all doing the best we can. And I think with our social media, like we don't get any negative, because we're kids performers. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's good. It means both. I mean, that it boosts your ego. It keeps you confident. But like, I feel like every once in a while, just to keep you on your toes, I'm just going to slip in a comment of like, "Can't believe you wore that today." Blah, and then they'll be like, "Can you believe Tobin wrote that?" And I'm just like, keeping you on your toes, keeping you humble.
Yeah.
But social media is also, you know, as we all know, right? Like we're all trying to do our best on social media. And
Yeah,
I think it's really interesting. Like Brock said, we really try to support other people. I always try to comment on other people because as we know, the more you comment, the more algorithm, the more people can
yeah,
see. And sometimes I'm like, if you have a business or you have something like, don't you know that?
yeah,
It takes 1 second to comment or leave a heart and I really try to do it and not
yeah.
everybody does. So
I feel like I'm probably like the worst person for social media in the terms of like, I'm like, if I went into a boardroom meeting and they told me, hey, you have to post this amount of times, this, like, there's a part of me that's like, I don't mean it to sound so extreme, but like, do I want to sell my soul for fame? Or am I kind of okay knowing like, hey, I'll probably be like upset later that, oh, I don't got 500 followers in like 3 weeks, but at least I had a life. You know what I mean? Like at least I was able to go out, do things, and not stream everything I was doing just for the sense of gaining 3 people that day. Now,
but it
as
is
I,
part, yeah, for us it's part of our job, right?
yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
and I get it, but there's a part of me that's like, as a performer, you get it. And for me, it's kind of like knowing multiple things I have to do. It's like, all right, like I don't want to post like 5 or 6 things a day. And it's to me, it's not really content. Like I know there's people out there now that watch TikTok and it's dance videos and they like that. But like me just getting on a Instagram live and being like, I'm eating a sandwich today. And later on, I'm going to interview Sunshine and Broccoli and we're going to talk about this. People are probably going to be like, yeah, but you told us last week you were having McDonald's and you were going to do this. And now you're doing that. Like, I don't care. Like, just let me know when you're doing something like really cool. Like, let me know when you go live, and then I'll tune in, rather than like telling you the whole day. All right, I'm at McDonald's. It's 3:00. Sonshine and Broccoli at 9:30 Newfoundland. All right, it's 5:00. I'm just getting home, and they're just like, I don't care. Just show me Sonshine and Broccoli, please. And I'll be like, all right. And then you trick them all by showing a sunny sky and broccoli, and then they'd be like, I'm not tuned into this channel anymore. I want to ask you for a bit of the fun aspect to kind of close it down here. Do you guys want to play a game of random questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
This is where we break up the groups. This is where the whole thing goes to down the drain, and then people are like, I can't believe you broke up the group. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so the first random question we have generated here is, who is the biggest complainer on tour?
I would say Sonshine. I'm glad she rose her hand. That.
I was just waiting for Brock to say me. For sure.
It just be like awkward 20 minutes. I'd be like, someone has.
I would. Yeah, not in a bad way. It's just there's certain things that are let up for requirement for us that don't follow through, and that's
she
where
takes
that
charge
stemmed from. Yeah.
There you go. There's who's more like in control, or who's the one that like acts fast. There you go. I feel like that's a good cop out, because if I said that to my soccer team, they'd be like, you're like the guy who just goes to the ref, and if the call doesn't go our way, and I'm just like, that's just a nice way of saying that I'm mad all the time. And then they're just like, well, we didn't say that, you did. And I'm like, okay, fair. But no, it's fair. Like, if people want to go and say, hey, like, this isn't working, you need somebody in your group to do that. So that's good. Who do you think is the most I guess shy when it comes to, like, if a parent comes up to them and says, hey, this is great, like, who do you think is a little bit more shy and being like, oh, like, you don't really mean that, like, oh, it's nice of you, but I don't believe you?
I don't think any of us. I think we're so used to having people come up and give us like really nice compliments, so I think both of us take it in.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that's equal. Yeah.
Someone had just commented here that they got down, smart man, waiting for her to answer first. So yeah.
Learned well.
Yeah, learned after all that years of friendship, right? Like, it could have been over within like 2 weeks, where it was just like, oh, okay, I want this to stick around. The other random one they have here is, this one's pretty decent. What's your favorite kind of like fast food or meal treat when you're performing? Like, once you're done performing, it's something that you have to have. I will say, once I'm done a podcast, if I had it around, I'd love some sour keys. I wouldn't do them during a conversation, because you just see me be like sucking on sour keys, and then they'd be like, what is he doing? And I'd be like, next question.
Well, that's a great question. I know that Sonshine and myself, when we just finished one of our last concerts, we went right to McDonald's. And
literally.
Yeah.
I was like, I need McDonald's.
She's like, I don't care. We're getting it now. And I'm like, that's a great idea. That's what we're doing. So yeah, I think McDonald's is a nice reward after doing a hard show.
But we don't do that often.
Not all the time. No,
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like if I had to go to a go-to reward, I'm actually having, like, my brother's actually coming down for my nephew's christening. So he was only born in September. And I was like, we don't have a Pizza Hut in Newfoundland anymore. So I was like, hey, do you think you could bring Pizza Hut down? And he's like, really? You do this every time I come down? I'm like, well, like, that's the only time I'm going to get Pizza Hut. It's like my second Christmas. I feel like for Christmas this year, I should just be like, hey, don't worry about sending me $100.
Yeah.
Bring Pizza Hut and we're even. And he'd be like, Pizza Hut is $100. So I'd be like, there you go. So it's well spent. The other random one they have here is, do you remember the first song? Now, it doesn't have to be Sonshine and Broccoli related. The first song you guys or you have ever written, and do you still kind of remember it or implement it in any way? Me, I'm not an artist, but I can remember the first lyrics I ever came up with was, on a cold, dark night, sitting on a half pipe. And that's as far as I went. And I was just like, all right, done. Someone else finish the rest of the
song. Wow, that's a good question. I remember I wrote a song in Sheridan, Find You. And to be honest, that's the only lyric I remember of it. And that's it for that song. But I remember that, and I was like, I don't know if this is good. And I got a good reception from that song. I wrote another song and it was bad. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. So that was my first recollection of that.
That's like quite the performance when you go up on stage and be like, all right, I got a song for you guys. Are you ready to hear it? And then they're like, yeah. And then they're like, find you. And then you just leave. And they're like, that was the shortest song I ever heard.
Yeah, that's a 1 second song.
Yeah. What do you have, Sonshine?
I never really wrote songs until Sonshine and Broccoli. So we wrote the welcome and goodbye song, which we sing at every single show. So it's going strong. All
right. No, that's fair. I just think it's interesting because when I mentioned the Cold Dark Night half pipe one, like that was during a phase where there was like a lot of All Time Low, Fall Out Boy. Kind of,
nice.
Like, the kind of grunge, I guess more or less the emo punk phase.
Yeah.
But like we did have a half pipe, like a skate park nearby. And the irony of it is I would be like the biggest phony to go out and perform. They'd be like, oh, so you skateboard, right? And I'd be like, no, literally, I just watched people skateboard and thought it was a cool lyric. And they'd be like, why don't you write something about, I'm like, because nobody wants to hear on a cold, dark evening, I played PS2 alone. They'd be like,
yeah, it's not as dramatic.
No, but today there'd probably be kids related to that. And they'd be like, man, during the pandemic, I did play a lot of PS2. And I'd be like, that I'm just like 20 years late. That's all.
And you wrote a hit.
I wrote a hit, but no one hears it. That's how it goes. I want to ask, I guess for the last one here, before we clue it all up, is, this one's not too bad. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Wow. That's a biggest pet peeve.
Inconsistency.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good. Geez, I was gonna say people who don't signal when they're driving. Like the Sunshine's is way better.
She goes right way deep. She has it already mastered.
I would say rude. People being rude or ungrateful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. My biggest pet peeve, I mean, there's plenty, but mine probably would be like, now I say this, love my parents, but there are times where they will yell out to me in this room and I will yell back, and then they will yell out again and I will yell back, and they act like they don't hear me. And then there's other days that I can yell like the biggest thing in the world down here and they will tell me to please be quiet. And I'm like,
wait a second.
But like 5 seconds ago when you yelled out and I said, yes, they couldn't hear that. But I could be in a room playing a game and I'd be like, man, that stupid goalie. And they'd be like, Brian. And I'd be like, how did you hear that, but not other things? Like, I know it's not the big, like, I'm sure I have a bigger pet peeve than that, but just recently that's kind of like where it goes with me, where it's like, because I'm in the house with them and then I can say something and then I'll yell out to them. And then if I do that same exact thing where I'm just like, hello, can you hear me? They're like, attitude. But then vice versa. They're like, what? I couldn't hear you. I'm just like, I can never win. I could be like, I could be like 50 or 60. And if they're still around, doubt it. But if they would be, knock on wood, I could be like a 60-year-old, like, I can't hear you. And they'd be like, could you be quiet down there? I'm just like, I'm 60.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Sonshine and Broccoli for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.